The horizon.
And welcome to Be in the Business. This is Jamie Thurston Wyngaard with you today. And we have an amazing guest, and we're going to spill the tea on what goes on entrepreneurs' lives and the behind the scenes. I know everyone makes it look like it's easy, hey?
Definitely.
Yeah, everyone makes it look like it's easy because the gram shows us all these good life things. But behind the scenes of what actually happens to entrepreneurs and their journey is quite deep. And I think we have quite a deep story today with Nathaniel Wagner with us. But first, I want to start off with who is the Mr. Nathaniel.
Cool. Thank you so much, Jamie, for having me. I'm Nathaniel Wagner and the co-founder of Design Lunatics, a digital marketing agency. And a full-time digital entrepreneur. Passionate about entrepreneurship, everything, people. That's my vibe.
Nice. So, where do you come from, and what's your entrepreneurship journey?
Cool. So for me, many people say like, are you born an entrepreneur? Do you develop? Do you nurture that? So for me, it wasn't a thing. So I'm originally from the Cape Flats. I basically am one of those who lived all over. I lived in one area, moved to that area, moved there. Basically, almost all of the Cape Flats. And for me, I remember I was never one for entrepreneurship. I worked at an organization. Till today, I have to thank my mom for where I am today. I joined in an organization. They were running a program for young people, for ex-matriculants at the time. And she told me, hey, you know what, join, sign up here. And I was like, no, it's free. I didn't want to. And she just put my name down.
You didn't want to because it's free?
Yeah, because it's free. You know, sometimes you wonder and you're like, does things carry weight? That was the best decision that I could have ever taken. She put my name down. She just put my name down and I started attending. So many people who don't know or know me would tell me, Nathaniel, from what I know from school, you could never speak. And now I'm like this total different person. So it was through joining the organization called Art Labs, which I'll mention the name. Fantastic and phenomenal organization. Things changed for me. It was like a whole different, a new person was developing. And I had a mentor over there, and he used to tell me, say, hey, you should ask God for an idea. And I said, like, yeah, you have a business, so it's easy, you're telling me. And through the work we were doing at Art Labs, I was also nominated at. So yes, here's the thing. I was an introvert. I couldn't speak. Just even when they would say introduce your name in a class, in a session, I would get nervous and I'd my heart a bit. And mentally, you're already practicing your name. Just introduce yourself. And I that's when things changed and developed. And I just had this love for entrepreneurship. I started facilitating courses through the academy over there. And I was nominated through as one of the World Economic Forum Global Shapers at the time.
Wow, that's a big deal.
That was a big deal. And once again, that was because people saw something in me. It wasn't necessarily the belief I had in myself, but it was what others saw in me. So once again, that was a massive door that opened for me. And that was where my love for entrepreneurship developed. Because I heard once, it was a story at the time, Alan Gray Jr. was sharing his entrepreneurial journey. I was like, damn, I need to start something. And that was my entry into entrepreneurship. I didn't start by selling things on school or selling anything. But that was where I was like, and that was when I realized in that moment, I was like, entrepreneurship is a perfect catalyst to drive change. And I was like, I wanted to do that. And that's where the journey began for me.
No, that's like super nice. I think it's a nice thing that people ask, are you born or do you become or do you learn entrepreneurship?
Yeah.
And in your case, you learned about entrepreneurship and that's where you realized it's something you want to do.
Yeah.
What was the businesses you went and started from there? Was that Design Lunatics the first one?
So no, it wasn't Design Lunatics. So for me, the very first one that at the time, so I remember I went to a friend and I said, tomorrow we need to have a business idea. Because I was like, I was not hyped about entrepreneurship. I was like, this is a perfect catalyst. And what we did was we started a food delivery app.
Okay.
But that was based on Mixit. Mixit was the in thing at the time. So I know all about back way
Wow.
back in the day. It's based on Mixit. And what we allowed was people to be able to order goods via their feature phone, not their smartphones. It was for feature phones. At the time, that was the time when, of course, the smartphones was penetrating the market and kind of phased out. But that was the first. And thereafter, we ran it for about 2 years. We were in the Art Labs Innovation Incubator. Ran it for 2 years. It was fun. It was exciting. And thereafter shut it down because we had like a mentor/investor that came on board and we were starting pulling that different direction. It was like, okay, let's shut it down. And that's when I decided to take a break. And through Art Labs, I did a lot of entrepreneurial things, facilitating entrepreneurship in Johannesburg and Sierra Leone, Tanzania, and I was afforded opportunities.
Gosh, you've been around.
So that, I was afforded lots of opportunities over there. And coming back from one of my travel trips, I came back and I was like, so at Art Labs, we were exposed to quite a lot of things, and I was exposed to web design. Truth be told, 2011 was the first time I touched a computer, a laptop. That's not too long ago, eh? It's not too long ago. That was the first time. So when coming back from one of my trips, that's when I decided, you know what, a friend and I were always playing with building websites, playing around. And that's when we said, you know what, I was like, that's the next business. Let's start that. And that was my entry into design. That was the birth. That led to the birth of Design Lunatics.
Nice. So now the company builds websites and does marketing. Let the people know, because I'm sure maybe some of them need websites out there.
So what we do is, the core focus for us now at the moment is building. So we do digital marketing with a core focus on web design, developing and building and managing websites, along with SEO and PPC, marketing and things like that. So thanks to lockdown. Lockdown was a blessing in disguise for us. So got to establish and cement more relationships with a business partner that I was working with before. We always were kind of basically outsourcing and working on certain projects, and we just felt that, you know, it makes more sense to just do things together. So what we do now as a core focus is we do custom development and build websites. We love assisting small business as well. We manage for boutique hotels in town, and through lockdown we've done a lot of online stores and working on managing online stores. And it's also afforded us opportunity to develop certain of our own products besides services.
Nice.
So yeah.
So I know you've got some products. You've got something like Earnify.
Yeah. So my business partner, his name is Imtiaz, a phenomenal person. So during lockdown, that's when we really cemented our relationship. I'm like, look, we've been wanting to work for a while together, but we're like, this just makes sense to come together. We share the same heartbeat for community and entrepreneurship. So besides the parts where you make money, there's also the drive to actually, you know what, we want to impact communities. We want to impact our people. We want to assist businesses. And that's when he was like, hey, you know what? So he's the product owner, and we're like, let's bring all our products that we've done and others that we've done together. And Earnify was one of that. So what Earnify does is basically it gives people, it's a loyalty program.
Okay.
And it gives people the power, especially small businesses. So anybody, so your hair salon, someone who's just doing beauty at home can now incentivize, because for us the whole thing was, how do you basically incentivize people? So we're saying support local, but how do you incentivize those people for supporting local? And one of the things that was exciting about Earnify for us was, in our community, our mothers love saving. They will send you in a taxi to that shop outside of the community because you're going to save $5 there. Not realizing you're paying taxi fee, you're paying everything. And we were like, you know what? People love saving. So how do we allow them to save and keep that money in the community? So how do you start allowing anybody, whether it's informal or formal business, to start incentivizing, giving them that power? So that was Earnify, and then a few other products that we developed was also like Cape Town Encounters, also allowing any business now to list on a directory that can basically let someone write reviews, they can manage their own pictures and everything, the menus on there, and they can basically allow people to, and also manage their own, view their analytics.
Nice. I see this whole big thing of your whole business is about supporting small businesses, supporting startups and helping them get clients, helping them get seen, helping them build their online store and their website and their brand presence. I think that's amazing. If anybody wants to get in touch with Nathaniel, we're going to have your details up on here, because I'm sure these are all services that any business, any startup or any existing business needs to get. When we come back from the break, we're going to talk to Nathaniel about the challenges that you've faced in your entrepreneurial or even just your life journey. And I think there's quite a bit we can dig in deep from that, and then we're going to find out the lessons to learn from there. This is Be in the Business, and I'll see you after this. And welcome back to Being in the Business. I'm Jamie Thurston Wyngaard, and we're talking to Nathaniel Wagner over here about his entrepreneurial journey and, gosh, all the businesses he's been involved in, and he's been traveling the world, and he's come back with all these lessons and the problems that he wants to solve for small businesses around branding and marketing and building websites and online stores and giving people the rewarding experience that they deserve. What I want to touch on now with you, Nathaniel, is your journey and the challenges you face. I know people think you make it look easy.
Yeah.
You know, online we have a brand persona that we want to live up to. But what's the behind the scenes? What really went on in your life to get you to where you are today?
Cool. So first things first. I always when I worked at the organization, I was full time at the organization that I worked at Art Labs, and people often I could never relate. So I would read and going to networking events, and you see online when people say of the struggles as an entrepreneur that you face, like we're speaking now, these challenges. But I could never relate because for me, I was kind of secure and in a safety net. That was before going full-time as a digital entrepreneur. So for me, everything was there. If I needed to go pick up the phone or phone a client, I'd just go to the reception desk and I'd pick up the phone. If I would go to, or need to go to a meeting, someone would provide, there's a car, you can take the car and you can go to your client meeting. I felt like a rich kid that was like taken care of it, so I could never relate. Until I went full-time.
Full-time to your own business.
Full-time to my own business. So fortunately, because they are they advocate and very for entrepreneurship. And I was like, and they were like, go take the step. The nice opportunity that they gave me was they said, if you fail, come back. So yeah, that was the thing, and I was like, okay, let me do it. Let me take the jump. Let me take the leap of faith. I'm gonna go full time, and went full time. And I decided, I told myself, you know what, I'm not gonna start working from home, but I'm gonna start from a coffee shop. And I used to work at the coffee shop. That's when the journey started kicking in. I didn't know what else lied ahead for that very year. That was about, could have been 2016. Yeah, 2016. And little did I know everything that was still going to come. So that's when I realized this is a flippin' lonely journey. I went to the coffee shop and I realized nobody's giving you hugs here. You realize nobody's greeting you. You're actually alone here. And you realize you want to make a phone call and like, wait, do I even have airtime to make the phone call? Do I have money for airtime? That money should be the coffee for later and something to eat later and tomorrow. So that's when the reality kicked in. That same year, we as a family, we then lost our house. And I decided on myself. Personally, I said, you know what, I'm not going to live by anyone, I'm not going to blah, blah, blah. And I decided I'm going to just stay in my car. So fortunately, so for 9 months that not many know, I slept in my car. For 9 months, I lived out in my car. And it was challenging. So all of the things that played was, do you go back to work? Do you quit? Do you do all of that? And for me, what kept me was, I always remembered, there's a generation ahead that went there, and there's a generation that's following. I was like, Nathaniel, quitting is not an option. There's always someone, you never know, there's always someone that's looking up to you in the silence that says, you know what, in the next 2 years, as you said, your persona looks so well, as someone saying, I want to be like that one, I want to be like him.
How did this make you feel though? Because something like, we sometimes hear about the story of people living in their cars, but to actually be a person like you, how did that feel for you?
Damn, that was tough. So I'll give an example. So fortunately for me, I was working at a brilliant co-working space a lovely co-working space out in Woodstock. And the space, they then told me that the space just went 24 hours open. So I would hop between sitting in the car and sometimes working very hard. Then I was not working hard. I was forced to just be, it was like no other option. I had a team with me. So one of the toughest things was, so I was also the big thing for me was, Nathaniel, either you adapt and you innovate as an entrepreneur now to survive, or you go down. One of the two. So one of the toughest things was when one of your team members tell you, hey, I'm going home now, and you sit there and you're like, damn, what does home feel like? I forgot what home feels like. Those are those cutting moments, and you're like, damn. So that was the time when I was like, okay, dude, innovate. And I remember thinking, you know what, gym is the cheapest shower. That's your monthly shower. That's your electricity. That's your. And that's when, so gym, I didn't do gym for gym. I took a gym contract that was like every morning. Then you're showering, and it was like, you need to just stay on top, stay above. So those are the tough moments. In those moments, you're like, you forget what home feels like, and someone tells you, hey, drive safe home, and you realize, damn. And you realize you're this entrepreneur running this business, and all that quitting is knocking on the door every day. But all that, for me, the key thing is a bigger picture. And Nathaniel, quitting cannot be an option. There's people that's watching and there's people that's following. Push through.
That's actually it's so touching and so hard to listen to. And any of your staff members or your team, did any of them know?
No, nobody ever knew. Nobody ever knew.
And what was you, like, did you not tell them because you didn't want to get help, or did you not tell them because of your pride?
It could be pride, and it could be I'm very stubborn. I'm very hard-headed. But the one thing that I knew, so two things that always kept me was my faith in Jesus Christ and the bigger picture. And I always knew that this was the big thing for me was I always understood that it's just a season and it shall pass. And I was like, Nathaniel, this is the thing that I always say to myself is, and I'll touch a bit later on it about as well, is the fact that the bad things exist. When bad things come, you realize it makes you realize, it highlights the good that's inside of you, and it highlights the capacity for you to overcome anything. Yeah. So in those moments I knew, Nathaniel, this is part of growth. You can't keep telling the same old story of years ago. This will develop anew, and this is part of the journey. Just go with it. And so there were people that said, hey, you know what, don't you want to come here? And I was like, nah, just this I need to go through, and it will pass.
Because that does sound like a lot. It does sound like a journey. I'm sure there's even other entrepreneurs out there. I've heard of stories, even of Steve Harvey, for instance, where he stayed in his car for a while. Steve Harvey is now a big TV presenter and has his own shows and everything, and runs Miss World. He makes his mistakes. But there are these stories, and it just also shows, and I think you're a good testament to that no matter what someone goes through, no matter whether you're at your lowest low, whether you're at... And there's people that even have, you can at least be grateful you even had a car. Some people don't even have those niceties. So I think it's a case of being grateful for what we have, and also knowing that isn't your final destination. That there's so much more that you can grow and learn from there and adapt. And I think it's a case of maybe your stubbornness helps, because that helps you good in business. Because now you know when to draw the line and say, this is going a certain way and this way to go to from here. So that's the case of you with your your personal life, did that affect your business in any way?
So, not really. I think because for me, the big thing was I always understood that you had to still give your best. And here's the thing it almost affected, but what made it not affect me was I always say this use your frustrations to fuel your drive for change.
Nice.
So for me, I was not necessarily happy with the circumstance, but I used that circumstance and the anger and the frustration of it. That you know what, I'm gonna drive and I'm gonna do whatever that's gonna change this. So for me, it was always giving the best at what was ahead for me. And I was like, that helped me. So as I said, many times quitting was at the door, but at the same time, I'd use that very frustration of the reality to fuel the drive for change.
Nice, I like that. I think if anyone else also has similar stories to share, I definitely want to hear about this and see how we can even assist, because you're not alone.
Yeah.
Look, in your case, you did it by yourself and you got out of it. But to other people out there, don't think that you're going through these things alone. This is almost normal for entrepreneurs. We hit those lows. It's normal for us to get those lows. But just to realize that there is more, and there are people out there that can help and can support you. So your situation is a nice testimony, but I want people to be open and jump onto social media, even if you want to get hold of Nathaniel as well. So after the break, we're going to find out how you actually solved these issues, how you overcame them, and how you made your business thrive and work for you even to where it is today. This is Be in the Business. We'll see you soon. Cool, welcome back to Be in the Business. This is Jamie Thurston Wyngaard. We've been speaking to Nathaniel Wagner, and he gave us I've been holding back over here because his story was so touching, and I think it's a big reality for a lot of entrepreneurs. And I'm glad you shared it with us. People need to know that these things happen. We keep ourselves looking good, having them, sipping them cocktails, or brother at the beach and all that. But there's so much that happens in an entrepreneur's life. Running a business is not easy. Running a business doesn't mean we have all the millions and monies right now. But the thing I liked and the thing I want entrepreneurs to know is that isn't where you're going to end. And there's more to come. Just keep pushing on. If things aren't working for you, you can make those changes. But know what your goal is and know where you are heading. Because people often end up in depression. People end up in worse. The things of, I don't want to wake up today. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't want to get out of wherever you are, whatever rut you're in, but keep on. Your test is going to become that testimony. You're going to be able to come and speak to other people and help other people, because what you've been through helps build your character. It helps put you in place to learn more about yourself and about business. But the big thing I want to get from you now, Nathaniel, is how you overcame those situations and how you went through challenges even within your business. And even with looking at businesses that you've parked or stopped or started, and knowing when to do those things so we can get those tips out and help other entrepreneurs out there as well.
Perfect. So for me, the big thing was, I always say this, control what you can. And for me in those very moments was, what can I control and what can't I control right now? And it's always to look at what are the kind of resources that you have at hand. So whether it's skill sets, whether it's whatever, see what can you do with that and try and put it out there. So many times you try and control so many things. You're like, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, but I'm not sure how it's going to go. But there are things that you can control in those very moments. So for me, what it meant in those moments of overcoming and getting out, I was like, you know what, this I can do, and this I'm going to send to clients. So, even without them saying or asking, I was like, this I'm going to send and this I'm going to do, because that I can control at this moment. But I'm not going to do things. I had to start kind of reflecting and reevaluating what is on my plate. And then focusing on those things. And that's the same for products and projects that we're working on. Up until today, that's the very thing that I have to do so often as well, and see what are the things that's giving results, what are the things that's actually having an impact, and remove the ones that are not. Take that off your plate. And also,
how do you measure those kind of things? How do you measure what's giving impact and what's not giving impact?
So for me, it was more the thing of what is actually helping people, what's improving their lives. Because for me, that's impact. If it's helping, if it's assisting them and it's actually improving and people are utilizing it, enhance and kind of add more value there. Focus your energy, a lot of your energy into that, and not into the things that, sometimes you're like, oh, I'm going to do this great thing, I'm going to do that. And then it's just, it either never gets off or just never, it never takes off, it just never adds any value. And you're like, you end up focusing a lot of energy to realize later that nobody wants to use it. So look at the ones that people are interested in, the ones that's solving a problem right now, a current problem, and if it's working, just focus more energy into that.
Give the people what they want. Become customer-centric.
Exactly.
Look at what your customers want, and you give them exactly what they want. I want to ask this about your relationship with your customers. I think that's a big deal for you with your journey.
Massive. So for me, one of the things that I learned was, someone once told me this, a person of influence in the entrepreneurship kind of community. He once said, it was on a hike, and he said, business moves at the speed of trust. And I was like, damn, this is so solid. And for me, that has been the very thing for me. So, because, sometimes business is so cold, it's just transactional. And it's about sending an invoice and like, boom, I did your service for you. And then I stopped. And one of the things that I changed was I was like, okay, what if you stopped doing that? And what if you actually started helping and being more invested in them and building the trust factor? So one of the things that I always realized was, and had at the back of my mind was, Nathaniel, you are replaceable. Anybody, any agency can come along and replace you. And so what I did was, for a period, I just cemented the trust. And I started investing in trust, and that was, even if it was some work that was like, don't worry about the invoice.
How do you create trust?
So yeah, that was the big thing for me. I was like, okay, you know what, let me start building that relationship with the people, and let me show that I'm actually invested in them. I'm going the extra mile, and not everything became transactional as what it was before. And that business started moving very fast, and doors accelerated. Doors that were open started accelerating even more for me. That to the point where at one meeting, a client told me, and he said, Nathaniel, the day that you send a representative to meet with us is the day we're done doing business.
Okay.
And that's when that was a massive tip when I realized business moves at the speed of trust.
Nice.
Just invest in your relationships.
Nice. What I want to ask Nathaniel, if you could maybe go back in time and give a word of advice to baby young Nathaniel before all the entrepreneurship things, the introverted one that couldn't speak. If you could go back and dial on the phone now, holding the phone like an old phone here, to talk to Nathaniel, what word of advice would you give to young Nathaniel?
Cool. So I'll give three things. I'll write a book to young Nathaniel, but I'll give three things and I'll unpack each one very briefly. The first thing, don't conform to reality. Don't conform to the pain of your reality. So many times if I look back and I'm like, yo, damn, those things that hurt you, those things that made you cry, man. What if you took that frustration to actually drive change? And that still applies for today. These things that still apply. I'm like, don't conform to the pain of reality, but instead use that as a fuel to drive the change, whatever it is that you're going through. It doesn't matter what the circumstance. Secondly, to the younger Nathaniel, don't lose your childlike faith. I believe that a child is the perfect example of an entrepreneur. If you want to see traits and skills of an entrepreneur, look at a child. That child, today in the jungle gym, breaks his arm. A child understands fail fast. 2 weeks later, sometimes with a course, the child's in the jungle gym, falls the other side, he learns, don't fall that way, fall that way. A child, if you look, a child understands prototyping. A child builds a Vinci today. Same day the child's in the market. If that thing breaks, a child doesn't wait and say, I don't have funding. A child understands the resources, I don't have resources. Later today, back in the road. That thing is in the Vinci, it's locked in the yard for 2 hours, whatever, back. Child understands. So don't ever lose your childlike faith.
Nice.
And the last thing is, don't despise your upbringings. Too often what happens is we despise the surroundings, where we come from. And then we look for kind of the heroes and everything outside, whether it's geolocation and demographics, and we forget about those that surround us. We forget the small things in our local communities and where we come from that actually. So let me unpack that. So if you look at, if you want to know about bootstrapping, you look at the Cape Flats, you look at a single mother who puts a family and food on the table through school, university, this bootstrapping. If you want to learn about disruptors, and we talk about this in entrepreneurship, look at a taxi driver. Besides that, you're literally disrupting the roads. They understand MVPs. They're the perfect example of a minimum viable product. They're the perfect examples of creating value. If you look at a taxi, I always like it. You complain today. Tomorrow you're back in the taxi. You're driving this. You can complain every day. You need that. That's a perfect example of a minimum viable product. You talk about customer service. I mean, that taxi stopped dead. They stopped the whole road for you, and that Gachi still welcomes you. Tells the taxi.
There is such a wealth of information. I think the time is running up for us. Do get us on social media. I think we have to continue this conversation. There's even much more. We have some competitions and giveaways to get on. I think, Nathaniel, you have so much to give, and I'm definitely sure the audience also wants to hear more of you, so we can get you on social media. Definitely. There's some competitions we're giving away, even this. What do you think of this hotel?
Perfect. This is
the Vibe Hotel, based in Greenpoint, Cape Town, and I think this hotel is beautiful. And we can show you more of the hotel. So there's a lot of things we can do. And I think maybe let's have some more entrepreneurship days. I think, Nathaniel, you've been brilliant on the show. Thank you for
so much for
spending time with us. And get us next time on Being in the Business, where we have another entrepreneur coming through and spilling the tea about entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you.